Philadelphia News, team of my heart.
You already feel something's broken. You know it. This season was supposed to be different. But now, you're hearing whispers. Whispers about drastic changes, trades, and one shocking name on the edge of being pushed out. You think you've heard it all when it comes to Sixers news and trade rumors. Think again, because what you're about to discover will shake everything you thought you knew about. Where this team is headed. Stay with me because the truth is bigger than any name on the back of a jersey. You've stuck around this long through the letdowns, the injuries, the early exits, the almosts. You stood in front of your screen yelling, pleading for something to change. And now, you're being asked to believe again, but this time, there's real doubt settling in. You've seen the effort. You've seen flashes. But what you haven't seen, what you're not being told loud enough, is the full weight of the risk this front office is staring at. You've waited all year just to hear one word, clarity. And instead, all you're getting are murky signals and dangerous rumors swirling through the air like a ticking clock. You're hearing talks, trades, medical retirement, cap traps. There's frustration in your voice when you ask, what are we even doing? And you're not alone, because now you're hearing serious chatter about a name you never thought would be mentioned in a sentence like this. A player who's supposed to define the process, not become its final cautionary tale. And here's the thing, you feel stuck. This offseason could be the biggest moment in yours, and yet you're paralyzed with doubt. If you're honest with yourself, you're scared. Scared this core won't get another real chance. Scared that management's about to hit the wrong button again. And scared that all of it, the entire process, could quietly fade into an afterthought unless something drastic is done. But what if I told you they're actually considering it? Because this goes deeper than just a lost season. This is about contracts that might as well have chains attached. This is about max money tied to aging knees. And stars who might be giving you their last healthy run. You're watching these Sixers news headlines pile up whispers about trades involving names. That should be untouchable. But you feel that knot in your chest. Because maybe, just maybe, it's time. Now imagine this, you've got a core full of firepower in the backcourt. Maxey, McCain, Grimes, these aren't just role players anymore. They're evolving, exploding into real pieces. You've seen it. The team's balance is shifting. And suddenly, that old blueprint, the one built around a dominant force in the paint, doesn't feel so untouchable anymore. You don't want to admit it, but you see it too. That maybe it's the wings, the guards, the perimeter creators that'll keep this thing alive. But how do you fix it? You're told to wait, to hope that maybe another healthy season is coming. But you've already done that. You've waited. You've believed. And where did that get you? You can't let this turn into Brooklyn with Ben Simmons. You watched how that story ended. Don't let it repeat here. Because once you're locked into those deals, once those knees give out again, the window doesn't just close. It vanishes. That's why this summer, you need to look beyond just loyalty. You need to start asking the hard questions. Like the front office finally is. And here's where it gets real. There's one player, one franchise name you're hearing connected to an exit plan. And whether it's a trade, or even something as shocking as a medical exception, that conversation has already started. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. You deserve transparency. You deserve a plan that doesn't leave you clinging to hope. While the rest of the league moves forward, the Nuggets just pressed reset. And now, you're wondering if the Sixers will follow their lead, if they'll package up big contracts, young talent, future picks, all to give this city one last true swing. One last real title shot before everything falls apart. But you know this isn't NBA 2K. This is your team. And if you're being honest with yourself, you've seen the warning signs. You're not just reading Sixers news anymore. You're reading signs of a shift, of something bigger brewing in the background. And in the center of it is one player, one decision, one trade that could change this franchise forever. This isn't about being bold. This is about surviving, and someone, very soon, is going to have to make that call. You've waited, you've hoped, you've believed, and now you're asking the question no one ever wanted to say out loud. Is it finally time to move on? You see, this isn't just about a player. This is about a symbol, a dream, a face that defined everything you thought the process stood for. And now, you find yourself staring at the possibility that what once gave you hope may be holding you back. That hurts deep. You feel it every time you see him limping off the floor or sitting in street clothes. When you needed him most, you've spent years defending him, arguing online, buying the jersey, shouting at the TV. But now, you're asking the unthinkable. Not because you don't believe in him, but because you're starting to wonder if you can afford to. You see the cap space evaporating. You hear the talk about second aprons, medical retirements. The numbers that sound more like prison sentences than NBA salaries. $55 million next season. A $69 million player option in his age 30 season. That's not pocket change. That's a franchise-defining contract, and it might be locking you into mediocrity. But here's the thing. You're not alone. Every Sixers fan right now is stuck between love and logic, between loyalty and reality. And the clock? It's ticking. Loudly. You're looking around the league and seeing what Denver just did, firing their coach. Shaking the snow globe, and you're wondering, are we next? You see teams preparing for big swings in 2026, clearing cap room, plotting their next move. And here you are, staring at a roster that might already be out of gas. And don't even start with the trade rumors. You know they're coming. You can feel them in the air. Paul George hasn't been what you were promised, and now his name is back in Sixers news. His contract is heavier than his box score, and if you're honest with yourself, you're starting to question whether this super team was ever really that. Would anyone even want to take on that deal now? You've got whispers of Denver, murmurs of Porter Jr., and a million what-ifs that leave your head spinning. But then here's where it gets tricky. You think about the guards. McCain, Maxey, Grimes. You finally have a core that doesn't fold when Embiid isn't on the court. These kids can shoot, they can run, they can create. And for once, you're not holding your breath when the big fella sits down. So what do? Do you cling to what you know? Or do you bet on what you could become? And while you're here, asking those tough questions, let me ask you this. What if you didn't have to wait another decade? What if the answer wasn't rebuilding, but retooling? What if there is a way forward without burning it all down? Maybe, just maybe, the Sixers don't need to trade Embiid today. Maybe they just need to play it smarter. Let him rebuild his value. Take one last shot with this group. And then you pounce. The 2026 trade window opens. The market gets stronger. Teams get desperate. You don't sell low, you wait until they beg. And let's talk about that idea that hits you like a brick to the chest. Medical retirement. You hate thinking it. You really do. It's not about giving up. It's about facing the facts. But you know the rules. If he steps on the court for even a second next season, the exemption clock resets. So how healthy does he really need to be before you let him risk it all again? Because once he does, you can't take it back. And that could cost you years of flexibility. You feel torn. You want to believe in a comeback. But you're terrified that this comeback could cost you everything. That your loyalty might trap you. That what was once your franchise savior could now be the anchor, keeping you from setting sail into something better. The front office knows it. Nick Nurse knows it. You know it. And now, everyone's watching to see what happens next. So here, you are staring down the most emotional offseason in years. And that's why you can't look away. That's why every Sixers news headline hits different now. Because the next move, it won't just shape the next season. It'll define the next era. Let's get into what the real options are. Because once you know what's on the table, you'll never see this roster the same way again. So now you're in it. No more hypotheticals. No more kicking the can down the road. This is the moment you stop thinking like a fan for a second and start thinking like someone who wants to win. You didn't come this far with the process just to end up stuck in purgatory, wondering what could have been. You want banners. You want confetti that actually counts. You want to scream from Broad Street with a trophy in hand, not scream at your TV because another season slipped away the moment Joel Embiid went down. And look, this ain't about disrespect. This is about reflection. Embiid gave you everything. He played through pain, through heartbreak, through loss. MVP wasn't a gift, it was earned. But now you have to ask the question that makes your stomach drop. Is Joel still the centerpiece of a championship team? Or is he the last piece of an era that's already ended? Think about it. Every time he misses a game, the narrative writes itself. Injury-prone, unavailable, built for the regular season, not the playoffs. That's not hate, that's the reality you have to live with as a fan. And guess what? The league notices too. Front offices watch the same tape you do. They see the load management. They see the decline in lift, the hesitation in the post. The double teams that used to fear him now feel routine. You don't want to admit it, but part of you is starting to brace for the next injury before it even happens. And you're not wrong for that. The smart teams in this league, they don't wait until the decline is official. They get ahead of it. They build while they still have leverage. That's what makes this conversation so painful. Because if you can see what's coming, so can Daryl Morey. So can every GM looking to get Joel for pennies on the dollar if this thing drags one more year. And that's where it gets dangerous. Because what happens if the Sixers don't act? What if they hang on too long? What if this next season goes just like the last? Joel plays 50 games, looks dominant for stretches, but isn't ready in April, and you're bounced again. Then what? His value tanks. The whispers grow louder. And now, instead of being in control, you're stuck with an unmovable contract and a fading star. That's the nightmare scenario, and you feel it creeping closer every week. But the other side of this coin, it's just as risky. What if you do trade him and he stays healthy? What if he dominates on another team, wins it all, and you're left watching him hold the Larry O'Brien somewhere else? That's what's keeping you up at night. You don't want to be the fan base that gave up too early. You don't want to be the one who said goodbye to the best player in franchise history and watched him finally figure it out after he left. This is the emotional warfare you're trapped in. And that's why the front office has to be cold-blooded. Because they can't make this decision with their heart. They have to look at Jared McCain lighting it up, Maxey becoming an all-star, the way this team actually holds up when Embiid is off the floor, and ask the hardest question of all. Are we actually better without him? It sounds blasphemous, but you saw it. You saw the ball move, the spacing, the tempo. You saw young guys playing free, unburdened. McCain looks like he's been in the league 5 years. Maxey took the keys and never looked back. And the idea of building around that core instead of waiting on Joel, that's not rebuilding. That's evolution. Then there's the money. And you can't ignore it. Embiid's contract isn't just big, it's seismic. Keeping him means saying no to flexibility. It means passing on opportunities that could reshape the roster. You're watching teams like Orlando and see stockpile talent with space to spend. What do you have? A narrow window, a shrinking window, and every year that passes, it closes just a little more. Now, let's break down what a smart exit strategy could look like. You don't sell now when he's injured and value is low. You stay patient. Let him rehab. Let him dominate for 25 games. Let teams see MVP Joel again. And then you go to the phones. You talk to New York, Miami, maybe even Golden State. You look for haul, picks, young talent, contracts you can flip. You think chess, not checkers. And here's where it gets interesting. Imagine flipping Embiid for a star-level wing and draft capital, keeping McCain and Maxey, and unlocking a whole new offensive identity. You run, you shoot, you spread the floor. Suddenly, you're the ones causing mismatches. You're the ones no one wants to play. And the best part, you get younger, you get cheaper, you get future-proof. This isn't about turning your back on EMBIID. It's about turning the page before. The book writes an ending you don't want to read. And now, you have to ask yourself, are you ready? Ready to say goodbye not to Joel the player, but to the idea that he's the only path forward. Because the Sixers you grew up with are gone. This is a new era, and it's only just beginning. Want to know what happens if the Sixers actually pull the trigger? All right, you stayed with me this far. That means one thing: you're ready to face it. You've already looked the pain in the eye, and now it's time to see the plan. Because this isn't just about moving on from Joel Embiid. This is about unlocking a Sixers team that's built to last, not just to compete 1 year and collapse the next. So let's build it. Let's talk real names, real deals, the kind of trades that don't just ship Embiid out, they bring the future in. Let's say the New York Knicks come knocking. You know they want a star. You know they've been holding onto all those first round picks like gold bars in a vault. What if they offer you Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, a pair of unprotected firsts, and a pick swap? You don't flinch at the names, but you see the value. You clear Embiid's max deal. You bring in a 20 and 10 forward who fits alongside Maxey and McCain. You grab a shot blocker who gives you 20 quality minutes and lets your offense breathe. Most importantly, you get draft capital to play with. Or maybe Miami gets desperate. They want to win now. Jimmy's window is closing. Bam and Joel together? That's terrifying for the rest of the East. In return, you're looking at Tyler Herro, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Nikola Jovic, and multiple picks. A rebuild without tearing it down. Offense, youth, and picks, all in one deal. Now I hear you already. That's not enough for Joel. And you're right, it isn't today. But you're not trading today. You're waiting for Joel to remind the league who he is. You're buying time, but preparing for the inevitable. Because the worst thing you can do is wait until it's obvious. When he's 33, when his legs are gone, when everyone knows you've got no choice. You don't want to be Washington with Beal, Portland with Dame, holding onto an aging star and watching the offers shrink. You want to be San Antonio with Kawhi. You want to be Denver pre-Jokic. You want to sell high and rebuild smarter. And that's where you start building your new identity. Maxey becomes your offensive engine. He's already an all-star. He's fearless. He loves this city. You build the pace around him. McCain, he's your shooter, your floor spacer, your bucket getter. He makes the game easier for Maxey and can become that electric third-quarter spark you've been missing. And now you have flexibility, cap space, picks, players, hope. You sign the right vets. You add a 3-and-D wing. You draft smart. You don't chase big names, you build a team. One that doesn't crumble if one guy goes down. One that grows together. And you know what happens when a team actually believes in itself. Magic. It happened with the 2014 Warriors, the 2019 Raptors, the 2021 Suns. Teams that weren't favorites until they were. The Sixers have been stuck in the same loop for too long. Star, injury, repeat. Now it's time to try something different. This isn't about losing Joel. It's about winning again. You're not betraying the process, you're evolving it. Now I'm not saying it's easy. Saying goodbye to Joel Embiid will hurt. A lot. It'll sting every time you see a highlight of him putting up 38 and 16 in a Heat jersey. But you'll also see something else, your new team, learning to fight without him. Not hoping he stays healthy, but thriving even when he's not their . And when those young guys, Maxey, McCain, whoever you get in a deal, take that next step, That braid you've been dreaming of, it might just show up on your doorstep sooner than you think. So here's what you do now. You subscribe. You click that bell. Because if you're a real Sixers fan, this ain't just content, it's your front row seat to what's coming next. We're going to break every rumor, analyze every trade, and walk you through every step of this new era. You've given your heart to this team. Now give your attention to the truth. Hit that button. Let's build the next contender together.